Okay, here we are. Video 2. Getting a can-do attitude. Now, I want you to understand that my intention for you today is to understand that your attitude is your choice. And I want to give you some tools to help you if you struggle with negative emotions or speaking the negative or speaking where you are first. And we may or may not get to how to take control of your emotions instead of being ruled by them. But we'll definitely talk about how to transition and shift when you're in that moment of like, woe is me, everything's wrong, this is never going to work. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. But my question for you right now is, has your attitude changed since you've identified your strengths? Right? We spent the time, I hope you spent the time yesterday to go through and find what your superpower is and what your strengths are. But how has your attitude changed since you've identified them? I just want to remind you that we're in this process now. So everything we're doing is these first 3 steps, believing it's possible. And now we're talking about getting a can-do attitude. Okay? I hope that you've learned that you have strengths and that you are worthy of success. And that you already have seen some things. You've opened your eyes to ways that you've been confident in the past. And there are circumstances and situations where you're confident without even thinking about it. Okay? Now, part of getting the can-do attitude is knowing it's a choice, changing and understanding you need to communicate with yourself positively. We believe everything that we say. We're also our own worst critic. Being intentional about what we want to create. Again, this is about empowering you to know that you get to choose, and then choosing how you feel about the outcomes. You get to choose how you feel about those too. You don't have to have reactions that everyone says you're supposed to have, because everything starts with your mind. Everything that's ever been in existence started with a thought, and then a desire, and then an action, and then someone persisting to taking it all the way across the finish line. Okay? You get to choose how you react to a situation. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get angry. It doesn't mean you're not going to get frustrated. It doesn't mean you're not going to get overwhelmed. You will. It happens, especially when you're pushing yourself to do things that aren't comfortable and to do things that are making you grow. What it does mean, though, is you don't have to stay there and let that be where it ends. It means you can feel how you're feeling, but you can go back to expressing what you want. That is the key thing about keeping a can-do attitude and getting it, right? In the course, we talk about the difference between a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and we go through all of those things. But today, I don't want to go into all of that. I just want you to ask yourself, do I have a positive attitude or a negative attitude? And start there. Do you find yourself saying more positive things? Do you find yourself saying more negative things? Do you have the skill, or you can look at a situation and can you see what is positive about it? One of my favorite stories is when it was our first pit bull dog that we ever had. A friend of mine had found the dog in his yard, and they belonged to some people who weren't taking care of him, and he took him to my house, and he's like, would you please take care of this dog? And I was like, ugh, I'm so busy, I don't need another dog, yada, yada, yada. The kids said they would help, which of course they lied, but they said that they would help anyway. And this dog had, what was it called? It was called it's basically anxiety. The dog did not like to be left alone. And so we would put the dog in a crate. And we came home one day, and I'm not kidding, the molding was ripped off the door. There were claw marks in the sheetrock. That dog, her name was Diamond, she had figured out how to flip the crate she was in over to get the door to open so that she could do all that damage. I still own the table that has her claw marks in it. So we walk in there. I walk in there with my younger son, Steven. Steven must have been about 7. And I looked and I started to laugh. He's like, Mom, how are you even laughing? This is not funny. This is a mess. I said, we didn't call him Peven then, but I said, Steven, look at everything it took for her to get out of the crate, to try, and then she tried to create what she wanted. So I said, she's just as stubborn as the rest of us. She is absolutely our family. right? So I had more respect for the animal. We made some changes to make sure that didn't happen, but I got to choose. I could have been angry. I could have been frustrated. I could have been screaming and yelling, but that's not going to change what happened. We still had to clean the room up. We still had to figure out a better way to contain her during the day so she didn't destroy, right? And all of the anger and all of that frustration would have done nothing but make me have high blood pressure and make me upset, right? So that's the power of choosing how you look, okay? So that's what I really want to talk to you about today. Now, sometimes when we're talking about having confidence and doing the thing that we want to do, sometimes we just got to stop analyzing the past, because that holds us back. It didn't work before. It never works for me. Every time I do it, it doesn't do. I'm not as successful as other people. It's easier for whatever story you have in there. Stop analyzing the past and start planning, how can you do it differently? Right? How can you do it differently? So how can you begin to speak to yourself differently? This is where I want you to start. I want you to start speaking differently. So how do you begin? You got to focus on what you're doing versus sticking and planning and waiting for perfection and waiting for everything to be perfect, because nothing like that exists. There is no perfect. It's never going to be 100% complete. There will always be something that has to be changed, modified, adapted, cleaned up, whatever. Using your strengths, how can you start changing how you communicate to yourself? One of the easiest ways to do it, and we go over it in the book, it's in chapter 3 about being intentional. And I put a lot about intention in the workbook that I have associated with chapter 3 of my book. You can go to howtopunchfailureInTheFace.com and you can get access to all the resources there. But intention, we have to set our intention. Now, I want to define intention. So intention is the act or instance of determining mentally upon some action or result, or it is an aim that guides an action. Are you deciding and creating your intentions for your day? Or are you allowing what shows up to be the author of the intentions for the day? Now, one of the things that I like to do is I like to write my intentions, who I am, what I believe is possible for me. And we write it in present tense. Not I'm going to be, in the future I will be. So the example that you see on your screen is, today I stand for, today I show up as, today I choose to be, today I am a possibility for. You can choose any of those statements. I just simply keep it in, I talk to my future self. I am a best-selling author. I am a world-class instructor. I am a sought-after speaker. Those are the things that I want to create. So I keep them simple in that. But it's very important that you do the next 4 steps, that you write down your intentions every day. You set them in the present. You set them as if they've already happened. And you don't limit your intentions to what you think you can do today. Okay, you put it in where do you want to be? What is that impossible thing that you want to make possible? Right? Set it for that. And don't worry about how you're going to get there. We're going to talk about that in our action plan. We're going to talk about that later. But today, for this moment, I want you to set the intention for what you choose. And this could be, for me, it's usually outcomes for my business. It's usually outcomes for my family. It's the things that I want to create for my life, right? Because you get to create this. You get to choose. This is really what getting a can-do attitude is about, is understanding you choose. You get to choose it. Okay, and this is the first step, and especially writing it down. It is a connection between your conscious and your subconscious mind. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a few books on that if you want to get more into the science of why it works. But even if, like we talked about yesterday, action is what you have to take to build your confidence. taking this small action of writing these statements is one of the things that is just puts you on the path, and committing to it and being consistent to it. Okay. So being intentional is not something that I think is talked about enough, right? Because sometimes we allow life or just things to show up instead of grabbing them and holding on to them for ourselves, if that makes sense. So really, really set that intention. And then at the end of the day, think about how successful you were with that intention, right? How easy was it? How hard was it? Did you succeed? If you didn't succeed, why? So that you can start the next day with the same intention and then know what obstacles might come up so you have a plan. And we talk about that in action planning, and we talk about waypoints, and we talk about that stuff. But I want to plant that seed in you right now, because I don't want you to feel like you have to set the intention. It has to be perfect. No, this is like a baby going from crawling to walking. This is a new skill that you need to give yourself time to embody. Okay, I want you to give yourself time to embody it. Then once you do that, you are going to have to look at some other things that you're doing that are impacting your attitude. And one of the biggest things is you've got to guard your mind. You've got to watch what you're putting in your mind. You know, great thing about technology, we can stream our favorite shows everywhere, right? Bad thing about it, technology, we can stream our favorite shows everywhere. So guarding your mind, you've got to start checking in with yourself. Like, see how you're feeling when you're doing certain things. Like sometimes, like right now, while I'm in the middle of doing these classes and doing these recordings, sometimes when I edit stuff, I'll have just something on in the background that like just kind of helps me get my brain, especially if it's something that I don't like. And watching me on video is something I don't like. Right? I talked about doing uncomfortable. Editing the videos, listening to myself talk, blah, blah. It really is a thing for me. So I put it on to help me guard my attitude about myself so that I stay positive about what I create, right? But where are the places in your life that make you feel negative and make you feel like things are not positive? If you have things in your life that are doing that, stop doing it. Like the old joke, doctor, my arm hurts when I do this. The doctor says, don't do it. So if it's impacting your attitude, don't do it. Replace it with something that makes you feel good. Podcasts, music that uplifts you, books. I listen to books. I'll listen to music. I'll listen to like podcasts. I listen to people that teach me so that when I'm listening to it, I feel strong and empowered, and I feel like I've done something good for me. Okay, so that's how you guard your mind. The other thing to maintain your attitude is don't label anything as good or bad, right? It goes back to the choice. Things are just. It depends on you and your perspective if it's good or bad, right? That weather is not bad. Like raining is not bad or good. Because if you haven't had rain, it's good. If it's a hurricane, it's bad. But the rain itself, right? The rain itself is neutral. So don't label the situation. It goes back to where we talked about asking better questions. How is this good? How can I use this? How can I take this and make this an opportunity? What did I learn? What can I learn? How can I grow? That's how you especially have to do it in those moments that life happens. So for example, at the karate school, I walk in and like the sink is full of like dirty, disgusting water. And I call the property management company, they tell me to use Drano. And I'm trying to explain to them that it's not like us turning water, it's not us dumping something in, something is backing up in it. And I'm trying to tell them it's the pipes. They say, no, you gotta do the Drano first. We're not gonna send a plumber out. Now, is it bad to have stinky water in the sink? Yeah, it wasn't the best, right? Is it good to have stinky water in the sink? No. But the good that has come out of it is now we've identified that they have a bigger problem that could have shown up in a completely different way if we didn't act on what we saw, right? So the good is that we're getting it fixed, and now we know that there was a deeper problem that has to be solved, Okay, so that's how you use the labeling things. All right, and then the other tool that you can use is focus on what is working. And I use this a lot with my business, and you can use this with your kids, and you can use this when we do an event. And so say I set a goal for the event of 30 people, and so say I get 12, right? So that's still 12 people. So what really worked to attract those 12 people, instead of focusing on not getting the other, okay, don't make me do math in public, 17 people, 18. Okay, you know what I'm saying. So instead of focusing on not having those people, focusing on why we got the 12. Because if I focus on what worked, then I can do more of what worked to get better results. So when we talk about focus on what is working, same thing with your kids, same thing with your spouse, same thing with your relationships, same thing with your learning. You can apply this anywhere. Like, what am I doing that is really working well? And then take off something that isn't working to do more of that thing. All right. The other tool is focus on good. I really, really like this quote. Life is like a camera. If you focus on what's important and capture the good times, develop from the negatives, and if things don't work out, just take another shot, right? Focus on the good. So outcomes. So let's use that event example. So say I wanted an outcome of 30. I had 12. I focused on what I did to get those 12 there so I can do more of it. But then I still focus on the fact that we got 12 people to come in, to train, to work with, so that we could help. Right? I focus on the good that we created for those 12 people. And I put all of my energy into the good feelings, the confidence that we built, the empowerment they built, the way that we inspired them, and then focusing on creating more of that. Okay? So the key to getting a can-do attitude is changing how you can communicate with yourself. Right? Don't use these phrases. I can't, I'm always, I'm just, this always. When you have those, or you catch yourself saying those, replace them with I can, I am, I will, I have. All right? I can, I am, I will, I have. To get you shifting and starting to look and focus your energy. And then finish those statements with either who you want to be or what you really want. This is the getting the can-do attitude skill. This is how you make it a skill. This is how you turn it into something that you just do. Okay? That is what I want you to work on. I've got a positive attitude checklist that is the homework. And it's just what we've gone over, and how to stay positive and how to maintain it. And so I want you to use the checklist to start developing the new habits around the way that you perceive events and outcomes, and how you communicate with yourself. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. It's going to take time. It's going to be it's like curling, sit-ups, push-ups, running. It's going to take a moment to make it something that you just do, to make it your initial reaction, to make it how you react versus having to think about it. So that's what I want you to work on between this video and the next video. Right? Remember, be exceptional, be amazing, be you. You're spending time on you. You're worth it. You deserve it. And when Wayne Dyer always said, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change. And when the things you look at change, it'll be easier for you to do the next step. I promise. I promise. Stick with me. We're going to get you there. You're going to be more confident now. Until the next video.